Welcome to the Kingdom of Pod. The Boise State football schedule comes out, and what a brutal first 6 weeks it is. Bush Hamdan takes a peek at the Kansas City Chiefs, and Chris Ault gets a surprise of a lifetime, perhaps. Let's start with the Boise State football schedule. Jeff Cave's here waiting for tornadoes in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as I speak. You get used to that if you live in this area. I wasn't before I moved here, and now I'm at least aware of them and still not totally comfortable with it. As long as these sirens don't go off while I am recording this podcast, everything should be good. If you do want to see the look of terror in somebody's face, you can go onto the YouTube channel in case I do get one of those sirens while I am recording this, and I'll leave it up for your entertainment only. Let's get back to the subject. The Mountain West releasing the dates for football schedules for the 23 season. And we all knew about the non-conference schedule for Boise State being very difficult. I looked at the first 6 games, and I think they're fortunate in that they have enough guys returning, specifically able to run the football, block for them up front, and handle it at the quarterback position, not only through the air, but on the ground as well. So having a tough early schedule with this group coming back, I think gives them a better chance than not. But we already know about the opener on the road in Seattle against Washington, but sliding in other games is more difficult. But road games in the first 6, Washington, San Diego State, and Memphis. And then you put in a Central Florida and San Jose State game at home. There's a lot of work to be done there, let alone, I know you've got Washington at home, and then you come back for Central Florida, and you could argue that that's somewhat of a relief to come back. But those are 2 very physical, difficult opponents. So I look at that as a very difficult road to hoe. I think putting in San Diego State early on what could be a Friday night game on September 21st, I think is good from a health perspective for both teams, but for Boise State. If anything happens to their quarterback situation, I think it's going to be more difficult. I don't see a 1A there at that position that just leaps out to you ready to go. So the less opportunity Green has to get hurt, the better. And by playing San Diego State earlier in the season, I think it's good. But yet I understand that the schedule is tough because they've got to go to San Diego probably on a Friday and then travel to Memphis, who is going to be a top contender for the group of 5 New Year's Day 6 position. San Jose State, not as difficult as they would have been had they returned a quarterback, but yet this is still a team that beat Boise State in the conference championship. They won 7 games last year. Some of you may have seen them in the Potato Bowl. So all of this adds up to, I think, a very difficult situation, despite the fact that they have all those returning players that we just discussed. That's a pretty tough road game. You could look at that Washington on the road and San Diego State and Memphis. You can't just put those up in the win column and say, they shouldn't have any problem with those games. They will have challenges in those games, very difficult opponents traditionally. And certainly Washington could be, if they don't have their act together, it could be a blowout. I mean, their quarterback could be headed to a Heisman Trophy season. So I see all of that. And if they can't get a pass rush with that game specifically, it'll be very difficult. And then Central Florida is kind of a mixed bag, but they bring in a lot of talent. And if they can, on the other hand, go through that 6-game stretch, say 5-1, beating San Diego, beating Memphis, beating Central Florida, who would count as a different kind of win at that time, and San Jose State at home, they're in great shape. So it is a great opportunity, but let's not get carried away. It is a very difficult one. The bye week for Boise State coming in before the Wyoming game and after Colorado State, okay. They have Wyoming at home. I think ending the season is a little different. You end it at Utah State, who has proven they can be a formidable opponent, but they weren't last time they've met. And then they end it at least at home against Air Force. Now, that can be a game that they can lose at home because it's happened before. If you have a lot of injuries along your defensive front, your front 7, and you're facing an Air Force team that's got it going and can run it, that can be a nightmare. So I think that's a very difficult position to have Air Force for some of those reasons. And it's not a gimme having the academy come in for the final game of the 2023 regular season. Boise State starting spring ball, by the way. And I think for me, a quick ad on spring ball, it's all about injuries and quarterback wide receiver chemistry. And remember those, that kind of chemistry is being put together against your own defense. So you can't draw too many conclusions as a neutral observer. We can with as much as the coaches will give us. There will be people emerge that they'll discuss, guys that are unblockable, perhaps in pass rush situations. But for the most part, the injuries are the biggest news to me, and they'll try to limit those as much as possible. But it will be nice to have them running around. Hey, don't forget, if you're still trying to put together a program for yourself off the field, so to speak, lose some weight, get in shape, sleep better, try to shake the stress that can come around getting into tax season and all that, then you ought to look at going with a program from Full Spectrum Health. I've started it. I wake up easier. I go to sleep easier. I stay asleep longer. The cold plunging piece of it has been really interesting because it's like another piece of your workout. When you do it, you feel a sense of accomplishment. It helps in any swelling and any other aches and pains you may have. And it's only 4 or 5 minutes. So you can do it in a bathtub, or guys take refrigerators and turn them upside down. I just go out into my pool and do it. But I would highly recommend that you go to, there is the website, full-spectrumhealth.com. Get a free 15-minute video consultation. The diet is great. The exercise program, it's under $200 for 8 weeks. And this is the time of year that you really owe it to yourself to get in a little better shape as you get closer to shorts or whatever, short sleeve shirts, or taking your shirt off at the beach. Full-spectrumhealth.com. Get their 8-week coaching program. It's a free 15-minute video consultation. Email me with any questions. Hit full-spectrumhealth.com. The Chris Ault situation with the college football playoff may have caught some of us by surprise. Coach Ault, the former Nevada head football coach and athletic director, being named to the college football playoff committee. I think it's good news, really, for any group of 5 team, because he'll fight hard for them. If it's Boise State or Nevada, okay, I would agree that he's going to have to recuse himself. It won't be a great situation, but Nevada is not going to be in a position to be worrying about that. I think he'll be more friendly and optimistic and fight more for a group of 5 program than anybody will give him credit for. I think he does want to see success, and he does his research, knows quite a few people, and it was just good to see his name pop back up. The other story that came out that caught some of us by surprise, I believe, was that Bush Hamdan was contacted by the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, who said that before he hired his next quarterback coach, he wanted to talk to Bush Hamdan, and he did so. Maybe the recommendation came from Bush's time with the Falcons, or at University of Washington, or at Missouri. It's all complementary to his abilities and talents. And let's remember this, in my conversations, at least with Dirk, when I was able to talk to him at the Frisco Bowl, one of the things that he thought was really important, and he didn't get a chance to do it as often, was really get into the techniques and drills with Talon Green on his footwork, his throwing motion, and all the things that you can get done with a kid in the off season. And Dirk didn't have that luxury to work with Talon Green. And one of the strengths, by reputation, that Bush has is as an instructor, as a coach, and when I say that, I mean a guy that has positive attitude, reinforcement, and can really help somebody develop their technique. And with Talon, that's still a work in progress. I thought it was, having seen him as a senior in high school to what I saw last year, there's been a dramatic improvement. Look at Colin Kaepernick and how far he took his career, and Talon has all of those skill sets physically. So having Bush Hamdan as an instructor for Talon Green is so critical. I think it's a compliment that he was identified by the Kansas City Chiefs as somebody they wanted to talk to. Do I have any hesitations that his loyalty to Boise State should be called into question because he just took the job at Boise and here he is off interviewing to Kansas City? No, the coaches in that room know that it's a profession and that for the most part, these guys all want to get to the NFL. Lifestyle's better, money's better, responsibilities are all about football and not about anything else. And there's all kinds of support to handle the things that are related to your job that are out of your control sometimes. So that's not the case in college football. So I wouldn't anticipate that Andy had much anger in losing Bush Hamdan. I think he was probably a little surprised, really looking at it like, wow, Bush is a pretty hot commodity. The Chiefs wanted him. What am I going to tell them? No, I mean, Bush had to look into it. And when you do that, there's just no, we all assume that when we go interview for a job, that means A, we're going to get it, and B, we're going to lose the one we have. When C, it may just all be about looking at it closer. We hear all the time about young coordinators in the NFL, like a Kellen Moore, interviewing for head football jobs just for the experience, so that the next time they're up for it, they're better at it. They go through the pressure of all of that. And for Bush Hamdan, that may be what his situation was. So I don't have any animosity towards him. I can't tell you firsthand that Andy Avalos didn't. And I can't even begin to imagine, had they lost Bush Hamdan to the Kansas City Chiefs, what they would have done for their offensive coordinator job. I don't have plan B. I'm sure Andy does, that readily available, but you would hope that if it happened really close to the season, they can get Dirk back or not, but anything is possible. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Kingdom of Pod. It's on the Believe Podcast Network. You can listen to it there. You can also go on to my YouTube channel. Just search out Jeff Caves and you'll see them all posted. I've had a lot of response and reaction to conference realignment and Boise State's future and Kellen Moore. You may want to look at those short videos that are on the YouTube channel, or just check them all out on my podcast as well. I'll talk to you next time.